Hi, my name is Cindy Hill, and today I'll be talking about how the media shapes the way people see Hartford, Connecticut, the capital of our state.
Basically, the reason I chose Hartford is because for a good portion of my life, from when I was like 11 to 18, I lived in Bloomfield. And, well, before that, I had lived in West Hartford. And I was like, why is Bloomfield and Hartford so differently perceived? Made no sense to me at the time. So I wanted to look more into that to finally answer that.
Often in the mainstream media, Hartford is portrayed as a city divided by inequality and segregation. Newspapers like the Hartford Courant have reported on how nearby towns, i.e., West Hartford, used zoning laws and housing policies to separate people by race and income. Those reports show that Hartford's struggles don't just come from inside the city, they're tied to larger systems that concentrate wealth and limit access to good schools, safe housing, and job opportunities. The media has a huge influence on how we see places and the people who live within them. Too often, Hartford is reduced to stories about poverty, crime, or inequality. Those headlines shape how outsiders view the city, as if it's only a place to struggle. But Hartford is so much more than that. It's full of culture, artists, neighborhood traditions, and people who care deeply about their communities. When the news only focuses on the problems, it misses the everyday strength, creativity, and care that the people of Hartford, Connecticut have. To understand why Hartford is seen this way, we need to have a look at its history. Hartford first sprang up as a community in the 1630s when a man by the name of Thomas Hooker and about 100 Puritan settlers that came with him founded a village on the Connecticut River. Given that Hartford is so close to the river, it quickly became an important colonial trading and government center, and then soon after the state capital. Move on forward, by the 1800s, Hartford had grown into an industrial and financial hub of factories, banks, and especially insurance companies that drove the city's economy. Insurance is actually still so integral to Hartford that it earned the nickname the insurance capital of the world. Moreover, in the mid-20th century, Hartford went through big changes, which included federal and local housing policies, redlining, urban renewal projects, and all that together with suburbanization caused disinvestment in many neighborhoods and displacement of residents. Now, let's take a second to define all these terms. Federal and local housing policies include government rules and programs that shape where and how people can live, for example, through loans, zoning, or public housing. Redlining is a discriminatory practice where banks and lenders refuse to give loans or insurance to people in certain neighborhoods, usually those with large Black or low-income populations. Moreover, urban renewal projects are government-funded redevelopment plans that often demolished older or poorer neighborhoods to build highways, offices, or new housing, frequently displacing residents. Continuing on, suburbanization is the growth of suburbs as people, mostly white or middle-class families, moved out of cities, taking the wealth and resources with them. Onto the last two definitions. Disinvestment is when businesses, banks, and the government stop investing money or services into certain neighborhoods, which leads to the decline of the neighborhood and fewer opportunities. To understand Hartford's current social and economic divisions, it is important to look at how earlier housing and zoning practices created those boundaries in the first place. The West Hartford, and Bloomfield demographic divide is mainly a product of policies that utilized zoning laws and other practices to enforce racial and economic separation. In the early 20th century, West Hartford became the first Connecticut town to enact zoning laws, which were justified as measures to raise property values and exclude quote-unquote undesirable groups of people, which unfortunately included people of color. These zoning laws pretty much kept Black families and other marginalized groups out of West Hartford, solidifying its status as a predominantly white community. On the right side, you can see a comic from the Hartford Courant in 1994, which takes the concept of a costume shop to a different level, emphasizing West Hartford's racist practices at the time. More on that topic. In due part to West Hartford's new regulations, Bloomfield and Hartford experienced a demographic shift as Black families and other marginalized communities were pushed out of certain neighborhoods and into nearby areas. The move was influenced by many racist real estate practices, such as blockbusting, in which white homeowners were encouraged to sell their homes at below market prices due to fears that property values would drop if Black residents were to move in. Additionally, there was redlining, which is the discriminatory practice of denying financial services. Unfortunately, the effects of these policies continue to shape the racial and economic landscapes of these towns today. Despite its history, Hartford and many other cities inaccurately portrayed in the media have developed ways to tell their own stories. Public access television, storytelling organizations, social media platforms, and local festivals provide opportunities to share the different individual/group's identity and lived experiences. Some civic organizations and local media outlets that work to shift this narrative include the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, which funds programs that promote racial justice, supports small businesses, and more, whilst uplifting local communities. Moreover, outlets like the Connecticut Mirror focus on state/local policy issues such as housing, education, and community development. Hartford's story is not fixed. It is shaped by those who choose to tell it. For some more examples, the Hartford Public Access Television, shortened to HPATV, founded in the 1970s, enables residents to produce and broadcast their own shows. It provides them equipment, training, and support, especially for underrepresented groups. Continuing on, there is a program known as Speak Up, which is a Hartford-based storytelling organization that seeks to promote the art of personal storytelling to an audience and support a community of storytellers throughout Connecticut. They produce shows, do workshops, along with collaborating with corporations, nonprofits, religious institutions, universities, and more. For our last example, there is the Connecticut LGBTQ Film Festival / Out Film Festival. It serves as a space for preserving collective memory and promoting cultural diversity through film, with a particular focus on magnifying the voices and stories of queer identities. All of these embody Robin Patrick Clare's idea of story-making communities, i.e. creating narratives based on lived experiences rather than outside assumptions. In other words, by giving attention to local arts, culture, and activism, these platforms help counteract the one-dimensional impressions of the city. Residents, organizations, and artists contribute to a richer understanding of Hartford, recognizing both its challenges and achievements. These efforts are not only about representation, but also about resistance and empowerment. By telling their own stories, Hartford occupants compete with those dominant narratives that often marginalize or misrepresent them.